What's up, my horse lovers? It's the Horse Reactor here, and I am back for another reaction. And this time, we are returning to, I believe we took a look at this something from this channel before. This is called, the channel is TVG Racing. This one's called Born into the Sport with Tom Durkin. They were celebrating their 20th anniversary or something at TVG. Well, formerly known as TVG. Now they're just called FanDuel TV, which I don't like that name. I wish it stayed as TVG forever. But it didn't. So anyways, this video is about 22 minutes and 2 seconds long. Yep, it's a long one. So I don't know how long this video will be after I finish editing it. So, anyways, I want to get to it. In 3, 2, 1, play.
Hi, I'm Tom Durkin.
Hi, Tom.
Within the walls of the National Museum of Racing and Hall of Fame. I can't help but think that there's a common thread that runs through all the people that are enshrined and celebrated here.
Oh, yeah?
People that devoted their entire lives to the sport of thoroughbred racing.
For example, like
this
you
feature
and me.
details a select group of people that share that very same passion, perhaps because they were born into the sport.
Yep.
We begin with a father-son relationship. Scott Hazelton and his dad, Richard, a former jockey and a superstar trainer.
I think my relationships really are what I bring to the viewer more than anything. The connections, the comfortableness that, horsemen, jockeys, owners, and having my father be who he is and so respected in this sport. It's just, you find that instant connection.
The King, Richard the King.
Hey, Bob.
How are you, buddy?
Good.
Bob Baffert.
I'd heard all the stories about him, and I remember going up to Turf Paradise once, and I saw him in the paddock, but I was too scared to go up and introduce myself. I said, man, if I could get to that level.
This is in Tijuana?
Yeah.
Look at that.
Hippodroma de Tijuana.
1945.
This is Pierce, Dale Dew, Charlie Coik.
He was leading rider in 1945 at Agua Caliente, racing against some of the all-time greats. He then transitioned into training horses.
He was
Really?
Turf Paradise. He was Sportsman's Park. He was Arlington Park. That was him.
I didn't really realize how great of a horse race trainer he truly was and how respected he was in the game, and I didn't realize it because he was dad to me. This was his job and he was dad, and I think when you're young you don't make that connection.
I tell people, you don't know this guy, he should be in the Hall of Fame.
Is he in the Hall of Fame?
He's a better
I don't think so.
horseman than I'll ever be.
Well, I know Bob Baffert
I
is,
am
but
so
not
lucky
Scott Hazelton's
that
father.
Everywhere that I go, it doesn't matter where I go, and it doesn't matter if it's in the US. I know somebody, and I know somebody that knew my father from back in the day, or somebody that knew me when I was a child, and instantly you have that connection. Hanging out with my family. That's what I do for a job. What do? I hang out with my family at the racetrack. We might have all different last names, but this is one big family with the last name being horse racing. If you want, that's our surname, horse racing. That brings us all together.
Yep. Sure does.
Richard the King's visit to Bob Baffert's barn was the final time he would enjoy a day at the races. Just 3 weeks after this shoot, Scott's father passed away at the age of 88.
Wow.
She was born and bred into the game.
Oh.
She worked hands-on in the game.
Oh.
She married into the game.
Oh.
And now Kate and Bradar broadcast
Kate and
the
Bradar.
game.
Okay.
I was definitely bred for the sport. I have racing on both sides of my family. My father, Ray Metzler, was a longtime trainer and operated a horse band company and was always involved in horse racing in some respect. My grandfather, Ted Atkinson, was a Hall of Fame jockey who came from very humble beginnings, worked his way up as an exercise rider and then a jockey, and was the first jockey to win $1 million in earnings. He was a leading jockey in the nation. He won 2/3 of the Triple Crown. Really, he was a rock star of his era.
I bet.
The Caton family, which is my mother's side of the family, is displayed here in the Museum of the Horse, describing Frank Caton, my great-great-grandfather, and his sons Will and Sam and his whole family, their contributions to Russian harness racing. The Punch Bowl was a gift from the Russian sportsmen and horsemen. They commissioned a gift. They went to Fabergé, the very famous designer at the time. It's sterling silver. It's got a punch bowl, a tray that's inscribed, as well as the cups surrounding and the ladle. And the significance or the meaning, according to Fabergé, was that the Russian horsemen were the cups, and Frank Caton, my great-great-grandfather, and his family were the bowl, and the knowledge sat inside the bowl and was scooped out of the bowl and ladled into the punch cup surrounding.
We met in the summer of 1987 at Arlington Park. I'm a jockey agent right now. I've been doing it since January of 2010.
It was funny that it took the racetrack to get together and to actually get to know each other.
Seriously?
He definitely helps me more than I am able to help him.
I can ask for a lot of phone numbers.
I really believe my history, as well as my experiences with my dad, galloping horses, being married to a jockey agent and an official, all the time I spent with my grandfather, every bit of it has helped prepare me for what I do every day on the air. I think I can explain things when they happen a little better than most because of my experiences.
I bet.
The Jim McKay Award is given by the National Turf Writers and Broadcasters, and it's the only award of that type that honors broadcaster for lifetime achievement. It was a big and pleasant surprise to find out that I had won.
Wow.
And after 30 years of broadcast excellence, it's no wonder that Caton Bredar is an award winner.
Yep.
Racing can be a metaphor for life. Things are great until they're not. Growing up in England, Simon Bray's father owned thoroughbreds. In America, Simon became a Grade 1 winning trainer and respected broadcaster before he was diagnosed with a rare blood cancer that would change his life forever.
Damn.
My first introduction to racing was at the age of 10. I remember specifically going to the races to watch one of my dad's horses run, and that's when I became addicted to horse racing. At the age of 18, I was employed as a young, what they call pupil assistant. Had to start at the bottom, work my way up, and that's how I got started. So I worked for Bill Mott as a trainer, and I'm there through some fantastic years when he's training for Alan Paulson. And then at the end of the summer season at Del Mar, Mr. and Mrs. Paulson approached me and asked if I would like to train for them privately out here. I came with 35 horses from Mr. and Mrs. Paulson and was lucky enough to have some immediate success. Once Alan Paulson passed away, his son was in charge of the estate. The horses were removed from my care, so I went from 65 horses to 1 pony in a matter of 2 minutes.
Wow.
Kind of turned my life upside down. I decided to shift into broadcasting, and that merged into a full-time position at TVG nearly 15 years ago.
Wow.
My health issues started back in 2015. I was very active and healthy at the time, and I was working out in the gym, lifting some weights, and I bent down and my T9 vertebrae broke in 2.
I chalked it up to
Damn, that
CrossFit.
sucks.
It had never occurred to me that it could be something more than just a sports injury.
I had a tumor, plasmacytoma, on the T9 vertebrae, and was told that it was going to be some form of cancer. They weren't sure what. I was diagnosed with multiple myeloma 4 days later. So I had 6
Damn,
months
dude.
of oral and injectable chemotherapy, then a stem cell transplant, and then more maintenance chemotherapy. So when I was diagnosed, 75% of my bone marrow had malignant cells in it. Thankfully, right now it's down to 0. You know, for many years I worked and worked and worked, but now my family comes first. I have the perfect work-life balance, and you know, that in part is thanks to TVG and the great family I have. I mean, my family is my number one priority. It's my life. I've never been happier, from where I live to my family to my work right now. Everything, all those 3 things. I couldn't wish for anything better right now.
Wow, dude. That's some story.
Now Simon Bray uses his broadcast notoriety to raise funds and awareness to battle this little-known disease. For Gabby Gaudette, horse racing and family were inextricably intertwined. Racing was the adhesive that kept that family bond together through good times and bad.
Oh, really?
My entire family is or at one point has been involved in racing. Mom was my dad's wingman. Dad was the trainer.
Ed was a character. Anywhere you go on the East Coast, or anywhere in racing, somebody knows him. Having Ed as their father gave them a place in racing that is beyond belief. He helped a lot of people in the industry. He really did. When Ed got Alzheimer's, it was hard. She made a conscious decision to go to college in Maryland so she could be close to her dad.
I'd be here
That's
and
smart
help
thinking.
take care of Dad, whereas that gave my mom and my sister the ability to go into the racetrack and do their job.
So I stepped back. I'm now her assistant, like I was to my husband. I do all the stuff they don't want to do.
We gotta get all the paperwork together for that.
Training horses for a woman is tough. Training a horse for a man is tough.
Oh,
My
yeah.
father always carried a wallet around and had a picture of Gabby in it. And I would always ask when I was younger, why do you only have a picture of Gabby? And he said, well, because you're always with me, but I need to show everybody else I have 2 daughters. I just always felt an ease and peace with the horses, and growing up on the farm helped with that.
When I say racing is my family, it truly is.
And they're off.
That's a race at Churchill.
When my husband, Norm, gets really, really, really nervous, it means that he actually thinks he has a chance of winning.
Our legacy goes coast to coast.
This was my husband's first stakes win ever as a trainer. It was his first graded stakes win, too. It's been a wild ride since the beginning, how our family has evolved. I do think that horses and racing have been the glue to our family. That's the biggest takeaway, is just at the end of the day, we love each other and we've been able to have so many positive experiences through racing.
The Gaudette family remains one of Maryland's best known and respected racing families.
I bet, dude.
Sons and fathers bond through shared experience. You know, you toss a football around in the backyard, you bring your son to a ball game. Well, you gotta know that Matt Carruthers had a pretty special bond with his dad. When one day, his dad put his arm on his shoulder and said, son, who do you like in the double?
I wonder if he really said that.
My dad was a pretty serious gambler. He gambled on all sports, but the track was clearly his favor. He thought that was the one game that you could win. They're betting the horse we like. I don't know if 3-1 is fair on Moody Jim. He was probably considered one of the elite pick 6 players in the country, I would say, in the decade of the 80s. There's no heavy favorite.
7-2. 7-2. He's going to have close to 4-1.
If the
4-1, I play him.
If the 4 wins. My dad would go and get a couple racing forms. And that's back in the day when they were perforated shut. You had to kind of karate chop it like this to open it up.
I was a real serious player at that point.
I bet.
And so, not too many people are going to have any kind of influence on me. I'm not real interested in that. But Matthew would have some insights that I might, I wouldn't tell him, of course, that I might recheck a horse or something if he liked it.
And it was so cool for me because we'd agree on a lot of the races. Why? Because he taught me.
It makes no sense for the ARS to be 3-1, other than I like it, so they're going to ruin the price.
My wife, not only she owns horses, she breeds them.
Hey, did you see that they're putting standard deviation in the tail of the cat at Monmouth?
No, I didn't know that. Yeah, Ren is a really good handicapper. She loves the pedigrees.
Was that a Triple
Dinner
Crown winner?
conversations are basically, well, why did you play your ticket the way you played it? If you're gonna go so deep on your pick 4, you might as well have used the last 2 horses instead of leaving them out.
The prep work for the day was fun then, and it's still the most enjoyable part about the racing to me now.
I bet.
It's confidence. You can't win if you can't lose. If you don't know how to lose, you're sunk. A lot of people go to the track and say, I've got $30 to lose today. Just as well kiss it goodbye right then, because they ain't gonna win. So you gotta know that you're gonna win.
Oh, I'm gonna win a couple thousand today.
Yeah,
I'm going to. Just great memories for me, learning this game, which I've loved my entire life, with my father, who I'm still really close to, who also happened to be one of the better horse players in the country.
Matt Carruthers was the first racing analyst to appear on TVG when it launched in 1999.
That's a long time.
Now, in racing, passion seems to be something that is passed on genetically. Now, in the case of Brittany Urton, she is a reporter who must remain dispassionate and unbiased. But, as you're about to see, sometimes the genes just toss dispassionate and unbiased completely out the window.
Oh, really?
Both of my grandfathers were involved in horse racing. One was a trainer, the other was an owner and a breeder. Well, my father has been a horse trainer for over 35 years, so I've pretty much spent my life at the racetrack. Probably
Really?
the earliest memories I have is just sharing it with my family.
Most dads can't have their kids in the same business they are in and get to spend as much time as we spend together. And we talk about my horses all the time.
I bet you
She's
do.
got a really good mind.
As a reporter, I'm supposed to be completely unbiased. As soon as the gates open and my dad has a horse in the race, all bets are off.
They're off in the Charles Whittingham.
I'm usually
That's
the
a race
loudest
at
one in
Santa
the
Anita.
group. Come on, Ashley!
Ashley Love Sugar is called on now in the pink blinkers.
I tend to go overboard.
Come on, Ashley! Come on, boy! Come on, Ashley!
Ashley Love Sugar on the outside.
Get up, boy! Get up!
Marky's water erupting, and Marky's water mows them all down with plenty in the tank.
Wow.
I'm so damn proud of him. Did he finish third?
Yeah, he
I hate
did.
that you got that on camera.
Too bad.
Her passion is just so amazing. I'll even have her do work for me. Hey, go check out and see who's plans on running in this race. And she has a big insight on it.
He never had a boy, so I've learned about sports from him. Reese is such a great rider for him.
Yes, he's just a good turf rider.
I wouldn't be here without horse racing. My parents actually met at the mall next to Santa Anita.
There's a mall next to the track?
He almost made it there.
You gotta wait till this boils, right?
I was asked on Twitter today how Giant's doing. I love this sport and I love covering it. I love sharing the stories from people involved because I know the work that goes into it. So horse racing, whether it be through my family or whether it be on air, will always be a strong part of my life.
I bet it will.
As busy as she is in her television career, Brittany calls her dad once or twice a day to keep up on all the horses in the barn and bounce ideas off each other.
Oh, really?
Racing seemed a logical choice for Mike Joyce. After all, his father was the president and CEO of Arlington Park. But life
Sucks
does
that
exist
Arlington Park
outside
closed.
of racing. Like the time you have to decide, is this the girl for me? Well, that moment came when Mike and his then girlfriend shared their very first pick four.
Oh, really?
As opposed to my colleagues who are trainers or the children of jockeys or they come from the horseman side, my dad was an executive. My dad ran racetracks and owned racetracks. And I've always had that to color my perspective. The Arlington Million was my dad's brainchild. The international appeal was something
Now it's
that
run
had
on Churchill
basically
Downs,
been
isn't
unheard
it?
of at the time. But they knew
Since,
for this to be a success,
Arlington
they
Park
had
is
to pull
closed?
horses over from Europe. They had $1 million purse, half of which was already paid for by a title sponsor, which was Budweiser. So it was the Budweiser Arlington Million. And they also had an hour special on NBC
Yeah, that's
Sports.
Secretariat.
My first memories of racing all revolve around Arlington Park. I grew up at that racetrack. It was the center of my racing world, and I didn't really know much about racing outside of Chicago. You know, I was born into the sport, and I kind of took racing for granted. It was never what I wanted to do when I was younger. I just always worked at the racetrack. It was the first job I had. It was the first sporting event I went to. It was where my family was. My wife started working at TVG. She started as a production assistant, which is how I started at TVG just a long time ago. My dear wife gave birth 3 weeks ago. He's my third. I have 2 children from a previous marriage, and I have a 13-year gap between kids. So for me, I have like a totally different perspective that I did the first time. It's a lot of fun, but man, 13-year layoff, you forget some stuff.
I bet you do.
I'll tell you, the moment I knew I was going to marry her, we had been dating, and it hadn't been that long.
Yeah, I think we were like we had been dating for like 3 to 4 months maybe. So we sat on the phone and basically handicapped the races together and made a ticket.
But that's when I knew I needed to marry her, because that's just not something you find every day. I know there's couples that have met while working at TVG, but not where both parties actually worked for TVG. So I think we're the first TVG baby. So I was born into the sport. He was born into the ADW. You could walk into a Major League Baseball stadium, an NFL stadium, a hockey arena, a basketball arena, and none of that comes close to the feeling that I get when I walk into a racetrack. There's just absolutely
Yeah, it
nothing
really
like
doesn't.
it in the entire world.
Mike Joyce is a lucky guy, whether he cashes a ticket or not, because he's able to share a passion for the game with his family. Racetrackers don't have a weekend in the sense that we do. On the weekend, that's when we'll go to weddings, we'll pick up the dry cleaning, rake the leaves. But for racetrackers, that stuff is done on their off day, the dark day. Now, you know you are born into a racing family when your parents, like Christina Blacker's, schedule your very birth on the dark day.
I guess you could say I was born into racing. My dad was a jockey, and I was actually born on a Tuesday. It was a scheduled C-section baby because there was no racing that day. And everything that I look back on involved this place, these animals, and how it's brought us all together.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this is the first time I've
That's
been
gotta be
here
nice.
in 20 years.
I found some old
Oh,
photographs.
really? Oh my gosh. I obviously wasn't on the lead.
After my dad finished riding, he decided to become a horse trainer, and I went with him every morning.
You're always horse crazy.
I think I was on a horse before I could walk.
Probably.
I mean, one day I was sent out for TVG, and I had the task of interviewing an assistant trainer, and I remember the second he walked down the shed row.
I'd seen you the year before when I went up and was like, oh, hi, and you walked away. I was like,
Really? You walked away from him? What is wrong with you, Christina?
We got married in July of 2012. I think if you're going to really live this, you both have to believe in it. Horse racing is not just a job. Horse racing really is a way of life. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Trackside Live. I'm your host, Christina Black. So Dan and I now have 3 little girls, and my girls love coming to the racetrack. Hi! Come sit by Mom. I want to show you something. Do you see that little girl?
Mama, one day can I go on a pony? But not today because I'm at the racetrack.
The purity of horse racing is something that really attracts me to it because so many things have to come together. You have to be lucky. No amount of
You gotta
money
be very
can buy
lucky.
a trip to the winner's circle. You don't know where that horse is going to come from. When you cheer for your racehorse, it's this joy and exhilaration. And as that horse comes down the stretch, in that second, all of those people are together. You don't often find anything that brings people together in that way. All of
In that
the
last clip, was
wonderful
that
things in my
Ashley
life,
Love Sugar
I wouldn't have any of them without
crossing the
horse
finish line? I don't know.
Some people are just born into the sport. Some of us are not. My father was an accountant, my mother was a telephone operator. But I'm part of the racing family. Like you, I have passion for the sport. And it's
Same.
that passion that makes us members of the racing family, whether or not you were born into the sport. Thanks for watching. I'm Tom Durkin.
See you in the next one, Tom. So anyways, I was born into the sport with Tom Durkin. To be honest, I kind of felt like I was born into the sport because horse racing was like I believe it was the very first sport that I grew up loving. And I still watch it to this day. I mean, I watch on YouTube. I watch, the live streams at Aqueduct and everything else. It's a great sport if you're a big horse racing fan like I am. Doesn't matter what type of horse racing it is, you're just going to love the sport in general. Because it's not just horses running around in a circle. Because, how can I explain it? It's more than horses just running around in a circle. I mean, you win money on it. I mean, you can win money on other sports too. But sometimes you win big money. Like in a big race. Like the Breeders' Cup Classic, for example. That's a $6 million purse every year. But anyways, yeah. A lot of people are born into the sport, especially the ones that work at TVG. Oh, I'm sorry, FanDuel TV. I don't really like it being called FanDuel TV. So it was way better called TVG than FanDuel TV. But, to be honest, if some people are not born into the sport of horse racing, you could just tell them, hey, for example, like if the Derby's on, watch the Derby with them or something. I don't know. But anyways, that's going to be it for this reaction. So please leave a like down below. Most importantly, copy the name of the video I reacted to and search it up in the search bar so you guys can see the video for yourself without having me talk over it. And click over here to subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Later.